defied Hollywood's odds. Yet behind the laughter and red carpets lies a truth far more painful. Her journey has been marked by struggles she could never laugh away. Loss, heartbreak, and moments that changed her forever. The woman once seen as Hollywood's eternal ray of sunshine now carries shadows few could have imagined. What befell Goldie Hawn in her later years is both inspiring and heartbreaking. A story that lingers long after it is told. A small-town girl's big break before she was Hollywood's golden girl, Goldie Hawn was just a little girl in Tacoma Park, Maryland, with a dream that seemed far too small for the life she would one day lead. Born to Edward and Laura Hawn, her father, a musician who ran a dance school, and her mother, a jewelry shop owner. From the start, the rhythm of music and movement was in her blood. At just 3 years old, Goldie was already learning ballet. By 10, she was dancing on stage in productions like The Nutcracker. Her childhood wasn't marked by wealth or privilege. Instead, it was discipline, long hours of rehearsals, and the dream of one day performing for audiences far bigger than her local community. Teachers remembered her as bubbly yet fiercely determined, a girl who could light up a room not only with her blonde curls but with an infectious energy that seemed to pull everyone in. By her late teens, Goldie was teaching dance classes at her own mother's studio, quietly saving money for bigger ambitions. Though her parents hoped she might pursue college, Goldie's heart was set elsewhere. She dropped out after briefly attending American University, determined to chase something more unpredictable: show business. In 1964, she made her first leap, moving to New York City. It wasn't glamorous at first. She worked as a go-go dancer in nightclubs, a job that paid the bills while she auditioned endlessly for something better. The city was ruthless, the rejection constant. But in Goldie's world, rejection was only a detour. Her optimism refused to break. That optimism finally paid off when the television kept its call. In 1968, Goldie Hawn finally got to feature in Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, the groundbreaking sketch comedy show of NBC. That's where she was introduced to the world. Not yet the polished star, but just a ditzy, giggling blonde who delivered punchlines with wide-eyed innocence. Perfect timing and a magnetic presence made her an ideal comedian. Audiences didn't laugh just with her. They fell for her. Goldie Hawn overnight became a household name. The combination of innocent and sharp comic delivery set her apart in a talent-loaded show. Only a year elapsed, and she went from nightclub dancer to favorite sweetheart for America. However, it was 1969 that really consigned her indelibly to Hollywood. That year, she starred in Cactus Flower with Walter Matthau and Ingrid Bergman. From a minor supporting role, it became a breakthrough performance. The Academy agreed. At the tender age of 24, Goldie Hawn won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, the accolade coming her way for Toni Simmons, the free-spirited girlfriend involved in a love triangle, who was not just hilarious but also really fresh, vulnerable, and completely unforgettable. That kind of rocket-like ascent was what most actors could only dream about within their lifetimes. This year, she was an actress on a television sketch show. The next, she had it in her hands, an Academy Award with a giggling acceptance speech, winning even more hearts. However, that meant expectation, a burden to be carried. Hollywood cast her as the cute, ditzy blonde with her own cute laugh, and tried to trap her there. But Goldie's smiles were already beginning to show signs of strain. Smart and ambitious, she was more than capable of handling serious material, but the industry's stereotypical sexism shoved her into one box after the next. The world saw her as a bubbly girl next door, but Goldie herself knew better and was ready to fight for it. It was supernova bright. In soaring glory, it also sowed the seeds for the lifelong struggle, how to maintain that brilliance coerced by Hollywood's expectations into its stale definitions. The world had fallen in love with Goldie Hawn, but few understood how quickly that love would begin to take its toll. Hollywood fame and hidden struggles. Winning an Oscar at just 24 should have been the start of a fairy tale. For Goldie Hawn, it was both a blessing and a burden. Hollywood had crowned her the queen of comedy, the quirky ingenue whose laughter could disarm the harshest critic. Studios rushed to cast her, tabloids plaster her face across covers, and fans adored the bubbly charm that seemed so effortless. But fame, as Goldie quickly discovered, is rarely gentle. The same laughter that made her beloved also became her cage. Casting directors didn't see a versatile actress. They saw the ditzy blonde, who giggled on Laugh-In and charmed her way through Cactus Flower. Offers poured in, yes, But they were often the same kind of roles, carbon copies of the character that made her famous. Goldie wanted more. Beneath the surface, she was thoughtful, spiritual, and deeply intelligent. She longed for roles that challenged her, that allowed her to stretch beyond comedy. But Hollywood in the 1970s was still a man's world, one that rarely allowed women, especially those branded as cute, to control their destinies. And yet, Goldie fought back. She chose roles strategically, moving from broad comedies like There's a Girl in My Soup, 1970, to darker, more dramatic work like Butterflies Are Free, 1972, which earned her a Golden Globe nomination. She proved she could carry a film not just with laughs, but with heart. Critics began to take notice. But the industry still tried to box her in, and Goldie often had to push twice as hard to be taken seriously. Her personal life was no less complicated. At the height of her fame, Goldie married fellow actor Gus Triconis in 1969. The marriage was filled with passion but little stability. Hollywood's relentless schedule, long absences, and the pressures of rising fame strained the relationship. By 1976, the marriage was over. Just 2 years after such a marriage, she remarried again to a musician, Bill Hudson, a member of the Hudson Brothers. They had 2 children, Oliver in 1976 and Kate in 1979. For Goldie, being a mother was a sea change. She had a real affection for her kids, lavishing a lot of family time on them since her work demanded attention most of the time. But her marriage to Hudson was never right from the very beginning. They were driven apart by jealousy, infidelity, and misaligned priorities. The couple was already divorced by 1982, leaving Goldie a single mother in the harsh glare of Hollywood. The tabloids only made her heartbreak worse. Goldie's life was painted by magazines as a woman jinxed in romance. One whose smile only hides an endless line of failures. Goldie dismissed it all with her usual optimism in public, but she was hurting privately. Once, in an interview, she admitted that fame very often magnified loneliness. You can be adored by millions and still feel completely alone. Even her well-being decided to get in on the action. The bright smile was hiding a woman tortured by deep depression and anxiety, both of which were little spoken about during that time. The clamoring pressure to stay thin, keep up an appearance of youth, and be forever full of energy weighed heavily on her. She took refuge in meditation, yoga, and spiritual practices, which would remain with her for years into her future. They weren't hobbies, these were survival tools. Though Goldie managed to pull through personally, her career continued to soar. By the end of the 1970s, she had become one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood, and she would appear on screen as one of the leading actresses in movies such as Shampoo, 1975, and Foul Play, 1978. She wasn't merely part of the small cast anymore. She became the star capable of carrying films herself. But what a cruel irony this was. With the increasing success came the mounting struggle to balance public perception with the woman she considered herself to be. To audiences, she was forever the bubbly blonde with her never-ending laughter. Yet, inside, Goldie was battling heartaches, health issues, and the weight of raising 2 children, mostly on her own. Hollywood had given Goldie everything she had once wanted: fame, fortune, and recognition. All of these were accompanied by the shadows she couldn't bear to shine away with laughter. The stage was set for the most defining chapter of her life, the moment she would meet the man who would change her path forever. The love story with Kurt Russell. By the early 1980s, Goldie Hawn had everything Hollywood promised: stardom, wealth, and critical acclaim. Yet behind the curtain, her life felt unsettled. Her marriage to Bill Hudson had collapsed, and though she adored her children, Oliver and Kate, she was navigating the exhausting role of single motherhood while still carrying the burdens of her career. Love, it seemed, was the one thing Goldie couldn't hold on to. That changed in 1983. On the set of the film Swing Shift, Goldie reconnected with Kurt Russell, a former Disney child star who had grown into one of Hollywood's most dependable leading men. They had first met years earlier, when Goldie was 21 and Kurt was only 16. Nothing had come of it then. She was older, established, and he was just starting out. But now, with both in their 30s, something clicked instantly. Their first real conversation on set has become Hollywood legend. Kurt, trying to impress, joked about Goldie's figure as they rehearsed a dance scene. Instead of being offended, Goldie laughed. That moment of shared humor was the spark. Soon, they were inseparable. Unlike Goldie's past relationships, this one unfolded differently. Kurt wasn't intimidated by her fame, nor was he threatened by her independence. He admired her strength, cherished her children as his own, and gave her something she hadn't found in years: stability. Goldie later described the early days with Kurt as effortless. Their chemistry was undeniable, not only on screen in Swing Shift and later Overboard, 1987, but in their real lives. Both had endured heartbreak, and both were cautious. Yet together, they built a relationship that stood out precisely because it didn't follow Hollywood's script. And so, unlike many other celebrity couples who married, they didn't pursue that path. Again, upon all inquiries, Goldie just says, marriage doesn't hold two people together. It's the bond, love, and commitment. For her, marriage was just a failed contract. With Kurt, she got to choose every day without needing papers to declare their relationship. They blended into one entire family. Kurt became the rocking father to Oliver and Kate, and he and Goldie later had a son, Wyatt, in 1986. Their family life was as chaotic in the best possible way, cooking for children and laughter, not to mention the grounding sense of family that Goldie had yearned for since her own chaotic childhood. It wasn't a cakewalk either. As one of the most visible couples in Hollywood, they faced constant rumors: cheating, divorce, and secret weddings, with paparazzi hounding them and tabloids speculating endlessly about their disintegration. But Goldie's and Kurt's front remained very solid. They never addressed such matters but preferred to live quietly and have their children grow up outside the Hollywood hustle and bustle. Again and again, not just by fame but also by the ordinary tests of life, their bond was tested. The ups and downs of a career, personal losses, and later health problems began creeping into Goldie's life, and through it all, he was with her. He was her anchor, her confidant, and her safe place when everything outside grew too loud. In an industry known for short-lived romances, the two forged what became a model of endurance. While others were being dragged into the court by high-profile marriages, Goldie and Kurt got through quietly. Love built on a great deal of respect, a little humor, and a whole lot of affection. Kate Hudson once said in an interview that her mother and Kurt gave her the ultimate example of love. "They've shown me that real love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other every single day, no matter what," and that's what Goldie and Kurt did. For over 40 years, choosing each other through fame and fortune, heartbreak, and healing. But even with the strength of Kurt's love, life wasn't done testing Goldie. In the years that followed, tragedy, illness, and danger would cast shadows over the happiness she had worked so hard to protect. Family joys and devastating losses for decades, Goldie Hawn has been the embodiment of joy on screen. With her wide, sparkling smile and infectious laugh, she became Hollywood's golden girl, radiating warmth in every role and public appearance. Yet those who know her well understand that her family has always been the true center of her life. Behind the red carpets and movie premieres, her role as mother, grandmother, and partner has defined her more than any award or box office record. It is within this family circle that Goldie has found her greatest happiness and endured her deepest heartbreaks. Goldie raised 3 children in a blended household filled with both love and challenges. Her daughter, actress Kate Hudson, has often credited her mother with teaching her resilience and humor in the face of hardship. "She's human. She hurts, she cries, but she keeps going," Kate once said. That lesson was not theoretical. It came from watching her mother shoulder losses while still being present for her children, refusing to let grief swallow her completely. Her sons, Oliver Hudson and Wyatt Russell, also grew up under her protective gaze, witnessing the way Goldie turned family into a refuge from Hollywood's relentless glare. But even the happiest houses have tragedies that intrude into them. In 2022, Goldie lost a precious person known to her as such a painful loss that, at one point, she implied it was hard to put into words. She would admit in an interview that it hurt so deeply that she could hardly express her feelings about it, and that bitterness weighed on her every day. For someone who had spent her life uplifting audiences, this public acknowledgement of sorrow was striking. The woman who made millions laugh was now letting the world see the tears behind the smile. This moment stripped away the Hollywood glitz and glamour, laying bare a grieving mother and grandmother, raw and vulnerable. Such heartbreak does not stand alone. It has grown from years of smaller, quieter losses, all of which have left their marks. Goldie has long spoken of the agony associated with losing close friends and colleagues of her generation. Actors, directors, and musicians who had accompanied her rise to fame. Every passing moment reminded her that time was merciless to all, including those who had once seemed larger than life. As she progressed into her late 70s, the circle around her became increasingly small, and every empty chair present in family gatherings was a reminder of what was taken away. But her constant in being able to hold things together is her love for her children and grandchildren. Kate, Oliver, and Wyatt are always in her life, publicly praising their mother's strength and humor. Her grandchildren have been a great source of healing for her. Goldie once expressed that being a grandmother is one of her greatest joys because it gives her an opportunity to show love without the spotlight attached to it. Yet, alongside every happy moment, the shadow of loss loomed. In her later years, joy and grief have become intertwined. One cannot exist without the other. And in the years that followed, her challenges would not ease. They would deepen, revealing just how much strength she still had left to summon. Health battles and aging for most of her career, Goldie Hawn seemed like she had discovered the secret to eternal youth. Audiences marveled at how she looked virtually unchanged from her laugh-in days, her energy still radiant, her laughter as infectious as ever. But as the years crept forward, Goldie began to admit publicly that she was far from invincible. Aging for her has been a complicated, painful journey, one shaped not only by the natural toll of time but also by the unrelenting gaze of Hollywood and the burden of her own health struggles. One of the most visible signs of this struggle came at the 2023 Oscars. Fans who saw her on stage noticed that she appeared physically uncomfortable, shifting her weight as if standing for long periods had become painful. Later, Goldie confirmed that she had been quietly dealing with a chronic ailment that left her struggling with mobility. For someone whose early life revolved around dance and movement, who once pirouetted across television stages and embodied vitality, the loss of physical ease was devastating. "It's a reminder," she admitted, "that time takes what it wants, no matter how much you resist." But physical ailments have only been part of her battle. Since the 1970s, Goldie has spoken candidly about her mental health struggles. At the height of her fame, while millions adored her as America's sweetheart, she privately battled depression and panic attacks. In an era when Hollywood dismissed such admissions as weakness, her openness was groundbreaking. She revealed that she would sometimes wake up paralyzed by dread, unable to move, her glamorous life a cruel contrast to the fear and sadness that consumed her off-camera. "I was America's sweetheart," she once reflected, "but inside I was falling apart." With time, these struggles have never diminished. Even this day, Goldie still handles the pain with therapy, meditation, and mindfulness practice. Through her Mind UP Foundation, she has turned her suffering into an arena where she advocates mental health awareness for children. She has often said she wished someone had spoken to her honestly about anxiety when she was young, so she made it her mission to break that silence for others. Yet her advocacy serves as an inspiration and a reminder that Goldie's glowing public face may always hide deeper scars. Such an addition of pains is aging. Most people have grown older, but Goldie has had to grow under a microscope. Every public appearance is all about the scandal, headlines wrinkled, body shamed, or even by fashion notation. And there are those who are asking, has she aged gracefully? As if growing old is an art performance. Goldie admitted that such comments could sting. "You're never allowed to just grow old in peace," she reflected. "People forget you're human. They want you to be frozen in time." Kurt Russell, her partner for many years, has been the grounding point in this ordeal, assuring Goldie that beauty is not a product of youth. Goldie agrees that the acceptance of aging is a tough pill to swallow in Hollywood. The roles became scarce, and the producers who once saw her stopped calling. She has called it an almost slow erasure from an industry that she has grown to love. She tried to face it with some humor. "Every wrinkle is a story. Some are funny, some are heartbreaking, but they are all mine." One must admit, it is hard to be optimistic when the opposite reality is glaring. Persistent disabling pain is reported to limit her movements, and she has to carefully monitor her health. Friends say she sometimes hides how much she struggles, maintaining a brave smile for the cameras.